United Nations-sponsored talks to end the violence in Syria commenced with a shaky start in Geneva after a triple bomb attack in the Syrian capital, Damascus. The deadly attack, claimed by the self-proclaimed Islamic State, occurred at a revered Shiite shrine. It happened as government and opposition delegations convened in Geneva in a bid to start peace talks, the first in 2 years. The UN Special Envoy to Syria, Staffan de Mistura, met a Syrian opposition group, the so-called Higher Negotiation Committee, for the first time, calling it a useful meeting.
They've been exchanging with me some of their own ideas and how they can be part of this exercise. And I am optimistic and determined because this is an historic occasion not to be missed.
Salim Al-Muslat is the spokesman for the Saudi-backed HNC. He says the group is seeking a solution for all Syrians and is demanding action on humanitarian issues.
It's important for us to see that food goes to our children who are starved to death, to see Syrian families, Syrian women are safe, sitting in their homes, in their houses, away from the strikes of the Russian. It is important for us that those women in the jails of Assad are released.
The 17-strong HNC delegation wants a halt to attacks on civilian areas, the release of detainees and a lifting of blockades. Opposition delegate Basma Khodmani has repeated the group's intention to attend the talks.
We want to stress that we only came to Geneva after we had received assurances and a commitment. We have written commitments and we have a very precise commitment on the fact that there would be serious progress on the humanitarian issues. That is what allows this group to be here, not yet for negotiations, but certainly to set the ground for negotiations.
The head of the Syrian government delegation, Zara Zaher, says the opposition is not serious about the peace process and is trying to derail the talks with preconditions. Mr. Zaher says the government is considering moves such as the creation of humanitarian corridors, ceasefires and prisoner releases. However, he suggested they might come about as a result of the discussions, not before them. Mr. Zaher has also condemned the bombing at a shrine in Damascus, saying the blasts confirm the link between the opposition and terrorists. Asked if the Syrian government delegation would hold talks with the Islamic group Jaish al-Islam, Mr. Zaher said the delegation would not communicate with what he called terrorists.
We are not holding talks with individuals, we are not holding talks with terrorists. This is exactly why the special envoy insisted on having indirect talks. This is precisely why we don't know yet the names and the composition of the other side's delegations. We don't deal with terrorists.
Meanwhile, United States Secretary of State John Kerry has appealed to both sides to continue negotiations in Geneva. He's also called for immediate steps by all the parties to get food aid and other humanitarian assistance to Syrians.
Let me be clear. The Syrian regime has a fundamental responsibility. All the parties to the conflict have a duty to facilitate humanitarian access to populations in desperate need. The world needs to push in one direction towards stopping the oppression and suffering of the Syrian people and ending, not prolonging, this war.
The United Nations is aiming for 6 months of negotiations, first seeking a ceasefire and later working toward a political settlement to the civil war. The conflict has killed over 250,000 people, driven more than 10 million others from their homes and drawn in global powers.